Sorry, boys. Sorry, world. The answer is no. You cannot buy my gorgeous Browning Hi-Power from me. I love it too much. You'll want it. You'll probably be jealous. It is a high-polished blue Browning Hi-Power made in Belgium in 1977. And I do love it so. You will probably find it in my cold, dead hands at the end of my life. That's how much I cherish it. And on we go with the tabletop. Long overdue, a Hi-Power review. Dude, I just rhymed. Long overdue, a Hi-Power review. I like that. You should probably call it a low power review because of, my modest production qualities. Let's just leave it at that. I may forget a lot of things that you love about the Browning Hi-Power. So much history, so much wartime experience, serving in both the German hands and the Allied services. Oh my goodness, what a history. And here it comes. That's right. The object of your jealousy, my 1977 Belgium-produced high-polished blue Browning Hi-Power. Be jealous. Yes, I know it has a scratch. It came that way when I got it. But other than that, this piece is outstanding. It has the features that I personally love in a Mark I P35 or Browning Hi-Power. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now, if you are lucky enough to have a beautiful Browning Hi-Power in your gun collection, I bet you feel exactly the same way I do. That as you feel your life force ebbing from your body, you will run to your gun room. Grasp your Browning Hi-Power, not for defensive reasons, but just because you want to die with it in your hands because you love it so much. That's an awful visual image. Not fancy, that's kind of depressing. No, it's not, because you are dying with a beloved, cherished pistol in your hand. The Browning Hi-Power is amazing. I talked about it in 2008 when I really got serious about the Nut and Fancy project. It was included in a video I think I entitled Advent of the Reliable Combat Pistol. I mentioned the Browning Hi-Power had been around for quite some time. And by some time, I mean some time. Design on it began in 1914. It was patented in about 1923. John Moses Browning started the design, and then you know who finished it? DS. How do you say his name? I'm not even going to try. His initials are DS. I'll put his name on the screen though. He's really the one that came up with the design. He was an FN Herstal employee, engineer. He had worked on the design when it was originally a striker pistol, and then he turned it into what it is today. But dude, it's been around a long time. It is war proven. There are some great photographs of this gun in both the Allied service, the Canadians used it a lot, and also the German service. That one photograph with the German holding it is one of my all-time favorite World War II photographs. I think it is amazing. Hopefully I can find it, and I will attempt to roll it in here. Now, one thing that we love about the Browning Hi-Power, and let's be honest, is that it looks fantastic. It is a trim gun. It was way ahead of its time. Back when it came out, most guns had like 7 rounds. 6 rounds, maybe 8. The reason DS named it the Hi-Power, and the name did come from him, Hi-Power in French, is because it was holding an unheard of 13 rounds in its double stack magazine, also very innovative. But let's get back to its looks. Trim. It looks cool. It's a trim pistol. It wasn't that heavy when it came out compared to what was out there also. It's around 32.5 ounces. This one's 32.5 ounces. That is pretty good for the day. Pretty good. It was ahead of its time in looks and ergonomics. I think the trigger was never great. I mean, there's a lot of complaints about modern Browning Hi-Powers because of the magazine disconnect system, of which I've removed from this gun. Very easy to do. Look it up online. I don't know why I'm whispering that, by the way. Two-handed. Well, I guess because some guys would say, well, if you have a beautiful Browning Hi-Power like you do Nut and Fancy, just leave it as is. Don't change anything about it. I will disagree on the magazine disconnect.
Had you shot that?
Yeah, that's easy enough to put back in. You can take it out, put it back in, not an issue. Some guys are leaving it in, by the way, because their trigger pull is pretty good. I'm jumping ahead to features. I'll just do it now since I'm talking about it. This one with a magazine disconnect in it, because this is a modern production P35, BHP, HP35, had all that nomenclature. Or as the Nazis called it, the Pistole 640B, B for Belgium. Some cool names. Oh, granted, this isn't a World War II Browning, but you get it. Had a lot of cool names. Yeah, so taking the magazine disconnect out, no big deal. Now, if a dude was going to Cerakote it, like a collectible or beautifully blued, I would say 1950s, 60s, 70s, even 80s Browning Hi-Power, I would highly recommend he not do that. Instead, we have some clone pistols out now by Gerson. Springfield has it, and I might show you one or two of those before we end the video. Those are also going through testing right now. But no, basically keep it in,
is there a round in it? Yeah.
Well, the condition you got it. Yeah, philosophy of use on this. I think we're hitting on it pretty hard right here. It is a boner pistol. This is a gun that just makes us happy as gun guys. One reason is it ties into that World War II history, which I have represented on the table, with a Focke-Wulf 190 A5 and a P51D model. Late war P51D. Yeah, so it ties into that world history, and we love that. The World War II history, I love it. That's one reason I love Flieger watches so much. That's why, because it just ties into that. We love it. Your first philosophy of use is collectability. Now, I think it is common for guys that are into guns, I wouldn't say a casual gun owner, but that are into guns to have 4 Browning Hi-Powers from various eras. The gun was produced from 1935 to 2018. That's a pretty good production run from Browning, FN, really good. It's been made in other countries, licensed in other countries. Canada made it during World War II. So, and there's a lot of different variations. So this is a Mark I 245 prefix, i.e. a 9mm version. They made it in 40 also. No lanyard provision on this Mark I. And they also had a Mark I lightweight. I think those are uber rare. Aluminum frame. I've never seen one of those. But they were made for paratroopers. And then different sight variations, even on a Mark I. The Mark II was a more modernized version of the Browning Hi-Power by Browning. Had ambidextrous safety, nylon grips, 3-dot sights, throated barrel. Mark III, black epoxy finish, firing pin safety were also added to the line. I think probably the most desirable are Mark I's. Definitely anything tied to the German war effort. If you had a German, even if it was crude and finish, a German World War II produced P35, papered so you could verify that it was in the war, dude, super duper expensive. I'm not even going to hazard a guess at the price, but I would think it would go almost to Luger range. And I bet Browning Hi-Power experts will probably weigh in the comments and let you know, yeah, that's pretty much the way it is. I'm talking like a papered Nazi German Hi-Power. Yeah, but I think even going back, like I said, if you get like a beautiful one, like that has this blue, this high polished blue, I think these will be the most coveted. They're going to have their value hold. I've seen the values of these guns just go up and up and up. The clone emergences, I do not think will change that. I think the Browning Hi-Powers will continually be sought after, especially as people realize this represents such a cutting edge design and still to this day, like I led off with, a legitimate still combat 9mm go to war handgun. That is pretty darn amazing that a gun whose design started in 1914 can be categorized like that. Now, I think you can make the case, well, the 1911 is the same way. And I think you'd be right. I think a a good 1911 that's super reliable, also GTW all day long. This one's going to be lighter by about 9 ounces, more or less. It's going to have a different caliber usually, and I think the most sought after caliber will be the 9mm for sure. But it was so outstanding that the armed forces of 50 countries adopted and used the Browning Hi-Power, and some are using it still. I mean, I went through the list and I was like, holy cow, I did not realize it. And I didn't realize that SOG was issued Browning Hi-Powers in not World War II, but Vietnam War. I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, the British called it the Pistole #2 Mark I. As usual, they have 2 names for everything. The Canadians also had that super cool shoulder-stocked version of the Browning Hi-Power. I think they came out with it in 1944. Had a slotted grip. I think it was called the artillery version. That is probably the most sought-after version if you could find it. I'm guessing, though. I would love it. I would love it. You'd have to like paper it here with the ATF if you got that, of course.
We'll do 2
Whatever. So the primary POU for this gun, the Browning Hi-Power BHP P35 HP 35 Pistole 640, is collection piece. I think most of us would agree with that. So desirable is it. Once again, guys will hang on to it until they die. I got this one from an estate sale. That's how I came into it. Yeah, dude hung on to it forever. And you will see some estate sales bring more Browning Hi-Powers into the market, but don't expect to see them for $500 anymore. Those days are long gone. You're going to be paying like $1,000, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for a Browning Hi-Power. That's going on right now. And like I said, the clones are not going to change that. I don't think they are. Because people want the real deal. They want the John Moses Browning DS designed original Browning Hi-Power, and I don't blame them a bit. How about GTW handgun? Is it GTW nutnfancy? My answer is totally is. Maybe not my first choice, but it's up there. No joke. It is amazing. Amazing. You're going to see how this thing shot, and honestly, I was a bit surprised. I thought I would have some problems with this gun when I first got it. I didn't change the recoil spring. I lubed it, cleaned it, took it out shooting. I'll talk about how that went. But I will say it is still a valid GTW pistol to this day. Remember, the design started in 1914. Oh my gosh. Amazing. And so, yeah. Again, it's not my top choice for GTW. It would be, I don't know, a polymer pistol, usually Glock, Arex, Delta. What's another one? Stoger, I like that one. STR-9. Yeah, I love that gun. It's awesome. Or how about this Springfield Armory XDM-9 525? Don't forget this gun exists. Actually, I don't know if they still make the 525. I think they discontinued it. This one has been Cerakoted by yours truly in Patriot Brown. It is fantastic. These 2 guns, by the way about the same. This one only has 1 round over this one with Metgar magazines. Yeah, but, simpler trigger, better ergonomics, usually better sights, tougher, more rust resistant for sure. This one, if I put it in a serious go-to-war philosophy and it's raining, snowing, if I get salt on it, we're going to have some problems. So that's another reason they came out with a Mark III with a black epoxy finish, more modernized. And then Browning got a little carried away too, and they came out with the BDA, the BDM, the BDAO. So the single action to double action transitions, and then also the double action only Browning Hi-Powers. And I did fondle those in the day. I would go to the gun counter and to be honest, I was a little bit intrigued with the BDA. I kind of liked it. I didn't have the money back there to buy one, but I was like, that's kind of cool. And at the time, I was a teenager or something. I really wasn't into like single action. I kind of didn't like it. I was like, I don't know. I'd rather have something different. And then I saw the P226 and its predecessor. I just kind of fell in love with that fire control mechanism. But, fast forwarding to the 1990s and I became more mature and more wise, I was like, single action is actually pretty good. And if you don't know, this is a single action only design. It runs just like a 1911. If you're going to have it cocked, you're going to have it locked like that, condition 1. That's how you carry it in the holster. That's how soldiers did it all the time. Works great. Now again, in later years, they put a firing pin safety in it and made some other improvements to make it safer for a modern purchasing civilian. But I like the original. I like this Mark 1. And the safety is a little bit hard to put on because it is under spring pressure. That's right. Did you know that? It's under hammer spring pressure with a Mark 1. Kind of cool. I don't mind that because I like that safety, hard to disengage, albeit it's a little bit abbreviated. We'll look at a clone where they kind of improve that. Philosophy of use. So go to war gun. Not my first choice, but it's still legit. Kind of like that Smith & Wesson Model 59 I reviewed. I basically said the same thing about that gun. I was like, the Model 59 is still a good choice. A little bit more modern than this, so that's an aluminum alloy frame, has some more modern features, but it's the same approach. Hunting, no. Home defense, I will have to say yes, because there are a lot of homes throughout this country that are still guarded by a Browning Hi-Power. I can guarantee it. And it probably ranks into the thousands. Lots of them. And here's an interesting part of that, is that a lot of the people who use a Browning Hi-Power for home defense probably inherited it and they don't know what they have. They may have been trained how to use it by their dad, by their granddad, and then they inherited it after those people passed on. They don't really know that they may have a World War II Nazi stamped Browning in their possession worth about $4,000. Okay, maybe not $4,000, but I bet you that has happened. Yeah, because it's a semi-automatic pistol. It's not like having like an MP44 or something. It's totally legal to possess, and so gals can put it into that home defense philosophy of use. Recreational shooting, I want to throw that in there and talk about this super briefly before I leave POU. If you have a collectible Browning Hi-Power, you may be going, oh my gosh, I can't ever shoot this thing. It's way too special. I get it. I understand where you're talking. But let me say this. You need to shoot it. Shoot it carefully. Don't abuse it. Be careful with it. But have fun with it. Just to collect it. Never take it out shooting. Like the person who owned this before me, to be honest, he didn't put many rounds through this at all. All he did is scratch the slide. He did keep it oiled up and stored very nicely. Obviously, because it was made in 1977, you can see that because it has 245 RR, R being the 7-digit code, 245 is 9mm, and the rest of the serial number I don't want to show the world. But RR, so this is a 1977 piece. So imagine that. It's been in storage since 1977. Who knows where? Could have been down south, maybe in Kentucky, maybe in Alabama, Florida. No rust. Well, so dude did a great job preserving it, taking care of it. But it doesn't look like to me, looking at the bore, that he ever shot it. Shoot your gun. Shoot your Hi-Power. Enjoy it. Your life is short on this earth. It really is. Enjoy it. Have your children shoot it with you. Make a special family outing with a Hi-Power. Train them about its history, about how to use it safely. Teach them to shoot it, and they'll love the gun, and they'll have a spiritual connection to it, as they should. On we go on to features. So, this is a short recoil, barrel unlocked with a cam, locking lugs on the barrel, semi-automatic 9mm pistol. Really kind of copying the 1911 in some ways after that patent expired, albeit we don't have, the bushing, the removable bushing up here. The takedown, I think, on a Browning Hi-Power is pretty darn easy. All you do is retract a slide, line up the notches, use a safety catch to leave that slide in the rearmost position, push out your takedown lever, and remove the slide, and off you go. Off you go. I think it's pretty darn easy. All forged steel. All forged steel. And again, can we just marvel at that beautiful bluing job? I bet you most y'all will be in agreement with me in saying that the most desirable Browning Hi-Powers, they may be the wartime one with the crude finishes if they're papered, i.e. you can, establish the link to wartime service with the Germans, for instance. For me, it's these blued ones. These are the most gorgeous, most desirable Browning Hi-Powers out there, especially if they're made in Belgium. I love that. I absolutely love it. Now, Browning used various locations to make it throughout its production run. I'll leave it to the Browning Hi-Power experts to tell you which one's the most desirable. I don't know. I'm just saying for me, I want a Browning high polish. I would take one made in the 50s, 60s, 70s, even on into the 80s. This is what was made available to me, and it satiates my desire for a beautiful Browning Hi-Power. One thing you may note that I went with the adjustable sight in this Mark 1, and I love it. This is my favorite sight. Well, one of my favorite sights that the Browning Hi-Power came out with. Yeah, the tangent mounted one in the artillery version might be my first, just because it's so funky. But for a normal handgun variation, this one's awesome. Adjustable for windage and elevation. You will see that I did paint the front sight in white. Don't get too excited if you think that's ruining the collectability. It's not. That's easily removable with acetone with no damage to the gun whatsoever. But it really lights up that front sight well. I did not shoot it with that modification, though. I just shot it with the iron sights. We're still kind of talking about features, but I do get sidetracked a lot. Notice that on this version, I don't have any attempt at all to minimize glare because they are doing that beautiful, high polish, lustrous blue the way God intended it to be. I love the height on these sights, too. Some of the World War II Brownings have very stubby front sights, fixed rears. Those are cool. But if you're not shooting point of impact, it's going to be very sad. Very sad. Standard cocking serrations. I love the cocking serrations. Again, this is a 1911 feature that they incorporated, or at least got the idea off the 1911 design. That's good. The whole thing is very trim, very slim overall. That's one reason my friend used it as a carry piece, because he said, yeah, it's not the lightest thing around, but I got full rounds in it. Back then, it was what? I think he was using just a 13 round standard magazine plus one. And he goes, I can shoot good with it, and it's thin to carry. His, incidentally, did have some rust on it just from his sweat. Something to keep in mind. I love this part right here. It's just so cool. That indentation here on the front. It's just super sick. Forged everything in this. Chromed barrel in this variation. I did have a snap cap in this one. Anytime I pull the trigger on these collectible guns, I always have a snap cap in it. That's what it looks like. This one is well oiled up because I own it and I will take care of it. And after I die, I hope the guy says the same thing. He's like, this guy really took care of this gun. Who was he? Maybe he finds this video later. He goes, holy crap, that's my gun. Yes, so very 1911-ish trigger guard, kind of small. I talked about the trigger pull. Not great. In most of the Brownings, you're going to see some guys in comments say my trigger pull is great. It really varies. So 8-pound trigger with the magazine disconnect in it. After I took it out, I got it down to 3.5 pounds. That's the best I could do. I have not smithed it. Don't know if I would. I don't know. This collectible for me, I'm not going to smith it. No. No undercutting of the trigger guard because that was not vogue back then. They didn't even know what that was. But the ergonomics of the actual pistol grip is fantastic. It kind of is reminiscent to me of a CZ75, also amazing. Maybe the designer of the CZ got the idea right here from the Browning Hi-Power. You can swap the grips out if you want. I will leave these on forever. These are the original Browning produced walnut grips. The checkering is okay, not amazing. I'm going to show you some on the SA35 that are amazing and much better than these. But these are original, and so I'm just keeping them. Now, the Mark 1 also had grips that would hide the hole that the wartime Hi-Powers would have for a lanyard attachment. That was pretty standard. Another, I guess, trademark of the Mark 1s, I think. Standard magazine was 13 rounds. This one is a Mekar, so it's a 15-rounder. And yes, I do have extras. Where did they go? Somewhere around here. Here they are. Stainless steel. So these are the ones I could get at the time. So those are Mekar Browning Hi-Power Mags. I've been using them in testing a lot too. No funneling of the magazine well. That was not vogue back then. Do I care? No. This is a collectible pistol. One thing you might want to do is just put some synthetic motor oil. I'm not joking. Just a thin film right here and it will kind of lubricate that opening for minimizing wear. Yep. Should you minimize wear? You should use it, but don't like put wear on your high power if it's collectible like this gratuitously. That would be my pro tip for you. Now this has my preferred spur hammer on it. I love the spur hammer on the high power. Some people don't because they'll get hammer bite. So it will come back and actually smack their web right here and make them bleed, and they'll start crying. I don't know if they cry or not, but there are a lot of the Brownings in later years came out with the ring hammer, and I think that helped minimize it. And there are aftermarket hammers you can put in there that will change it, but I would just run whatever hammer you have. Buy the version you want. This is an original hammer. I'm not changing it. I always shoot with gloves, so I didn't notice it biting me. Yeah, I don't. It looks like it would though, right? As it comes back, smack me, but even if it did, I'd put up with it. Kind of like my PPK. My PPK gives me slide bite. If I'm shooting it without gloves, it will like cut my hand up and I just don't care. I don't care. It's like, it's worth the experience. It's like if James Bond can bleed, I can bleed. That's what I say. By the way, why didn't they give James Bond a high power? Wouldn't that have been a smarter choice? Ian Fleming? Holy flip. I'm trying to not cuss so much. Thanks. Yeah, holy flip. You should have done that. This would be a much better James Bond pistol if you're going back into the era. Notice, by the way, the milling on this one is pretty radiused. Very nice. You'll see on some of the clones, they don't even do this cut right here. And it may be this one right here, this beveling, this radius right here. They won't even do that. Talking about features, external extractor was added in 1962 on the Browning Hi-Power series. I think some later versions had like an enlarged ejection port, but all the ones I've seen have this size and it works obviously just fine. It's an enclosed ejection port. That's always been that way. No issues with it. And again, all steel. Feels substantial in hand. That is features of an original Belgian Browning high power. How did this specimen shoot? How about this? Fabulously. No jams whatsoever. I could not believe it. Literally, I could not believe it. I took this thing out. I ran about 200 rounds through it. No stoppages. Jacket to hollow points. No stoppages. I'm like, excuse me? Really? I was like, I don't remember Browning Hi-Powers being this reliable. Because I think I shot one or two in the day. Like my dad's friends had one. And dude, I remember stoppages. But then again, I might be misremembering it. It's a long time ago. Yeah, it was reliable. Really fun to shoot. I mean, the weight, the ergonomics, the sights on this one, fantastic. I just fell in love with it. I did. It reminds me of a good CZ75. So like when Jardine shoots my CZ75, he's just raving about it. Always wanting to buy it. You know that Cold War one I've shown you? This gun's the same way. It's a gun people will shoot and they go, oh my gosh, that is just a dream. Here's the accuracy, and I have a lot of paper. I lost a couple. If I find them, I'll roll them in on the video. If not, I'll go shoot it again. or we'll just use this one because this tells a story. This is standing at 8 yards with a 1977 original Browning Hi-Power. I didn't change anything with the sights, by the way. So they're pretty good regulated. Look at this. I shot right here. That's a cloverleaf group standing at 8 yards. Right there. Look at that. Wow is right. That gun right there. Unreal. Unreal. This is JHP too. This is 124 JHP. I would not shoot plus P in this though. I wouldn't do that. The clones are rated for plus P, but the originals are not, obviously. Yeah, there you go. So how to shoot fantastically. I just love shooting the Hi-Power. It's one of those guns I could spend a whole afternoon with and just have a smile on my face the whole time. Competitive options. Well, I promised I would show you some clones, and here they come. Here comes the Springfield Armory SA-35, and it is more mimicking a wartime Mark I. It has the ring hammer. Here you go. It is fantastic. Boom! Nutnfancy, I love this review. Keep it going. You got it. Look at these grips, dudes. This is from the Springfield Armory. Browning Hi-Power, they call it the SA-35. Those are literally the best grips I've ever seen on a Hi-Power. They dominate these in both looks and serviceability, like traction. They are cut walnut checkered grips. Browning Hi-Power. By Springfield. This is their interpretation. Here's the modern safety I was alluding to earlier. So this is the original Browning Hi-Power, and I'm going to review this gun separately. This is not the review for the SA-35. There's that ring hammer. So it has those safety features we're talking about. It has no magazine disconnect though. That's pretty cool. Right out the gate. Awesome job, Springfield Armory. Yeah, buddy. That's awesome. Safety isn't, so stiff. Funneling going on here. So, a few minor but tasteful additions to their gun. And this is a matte finished, obviously, SA-35. So it looks more like a World War II Browning to me. Albeit the grips. The grips are too cool. You'd have to have some crappy grips on there. But really nice piece. You'll see how this shot. You'll hear my overall take on this gun, if it's worth it or not, in that tabletop review. And then we have the Gerson, here it is, and some of you guys I think own this already, the MCP-35. There you go, another clone. But like I said, I don't think these clones are going to reduce the desirability of these original Brownings. I think they're going to kind of amp it up, because guys will, maybe they get this first and they go, I can't afford a Browning, but maybe when they get more money in life, they go, oh, I'm going to get a real Browning. And this will be like a collection. Oh, one more thing in POU I forgot to mention is that guys should be shooting their Browning Hi-Powers, but I think a lot of you guys are not. That's one reason these are selling so well. So the guys that are buying these clones are already owning the P35. Did you know that? You'll see him in comments. Go, yeah, I got a Browning, and he's right. I won't shoot him, but I'll shoot my SA-35, my Gerson all day long. So this is a little bit more crude. This is really kind of reminds me of a World War II Browning Hi-Power, but for the money, it's going to be worth it. This is good. This is good. Watch the tabletop review. I think I'll break them out separately. I might do the SA-35 and this one together. I don't know. We'll see. But there you go. Some modern interpretations, since Browning is still not producing the Hi-Power. Well, hold on. Browning isn't, but FN did come out with one. They came out with a modern version. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I'm not digging the modern Browning Hi-Power. They're calling it a Hi-Power, but it's different. It's a little bit uglier. It changes the lockup. No, it has a different finish. It's a different gun altogether. Different lock work. That's the FN Hi-Power they're producing right now. I checked it out at Gunny's, and I was just like, ooh, it just wasn't connecting to me spiritually, and that's really important to do. Yeah. So there you go, boys. Highly desirable. Other competitive options would be something in that era, not necessarily a wartime pedigree. I mentioned one, the Smith & Wesson Model 39, Model 59, CZ75, the Beretta Model 92 series in that era, although this predates them by a long time. Yeah. I love this gun. Love it, love it, love it. So if you find me dead, please take care of it. Make sure you keep it oiled up. I'm okay if you keep it, if you find me dead with it in my hand. But pass it on to future generations if guns are still legal then. Holy cow, in this clown world that we find ourselves. And I'm done, boys and girls. This is a mini Badger. Right there, a Badger Small. I'll put a link below taking you to Pro 2A. Speaking of Pro 2A, Blade HQ. This review was brought to you by donors to the Nut and Fancy Project. They paid for all the ammunition and some of this pistol too. Thank you very much, donors. You guys rock. Become one. Anyone can afford $5 to $10 a month, like anyone can. I'll see you next video.